Good morning, everybody. Great to be here today and see a lot of friends. I'm going to speak a little bit about video analysis, but I'm really going to speak about the importance of sharing and increasing the knowledge of your athletes. So, in doing some research, I came across a quote recently. I swam at the University of Alabama, and right now Alabama is doing great in football. So every time Nick Saban says something, everybody comes out and says this is the greatest quote ever. And last week he said, "Don't practice it until you get it right. Practice it until you can't do it wrong." Now we as coaches know that this is exactly what we want. So I started doing a little bit of research on this quote, and strangely enough, I learned that the original quote was, let me read this, "This coordination of arms and legs is perhaps the most difficult as well as the most important thing about breaststroke. Practice the combination until you cannot get it wrong." So I thought this was very interesting that it took a football coach to come up with a quote that originated in swimming. And in further looking for this quote, I realized that it came from a book that was written about swimming and diving and was published in 1922. So when we talk about emerging technologies, we're talking about revisiting common sense technologies as well. For 16 months, GoSwim traveled around the United States in an RV, visiting close to 70 teams in the United States. We drove 40,000 miles, and we filmed 8,000 swimmers. And we filmed 8,000 swimmers with this, an iPhone in a case. We did an evaluation on every one of those swimmers. 8,000 evaluations in 16 months, which gave us pretty good insight on what's going right and what's going wrong. What we learned is that there are a tremendous amount of coaches out there that care about their swimmers. There are great people in the sport, but we also learned that there are some things that just aren't getting through, that the coaches have a lot of things to do. And so people would ask me at the end of our trip, "What was it that you learned? If you could come off with one thing that you could tell people that you learned about the trip." And I said, it's simplify and apply. Reduce the message from a technique standpoint, but make sure they do it. We saw a lot of coaches that were writing fantastic workouts and great sets. They were very complex sets. They had great energy systems to them. And then nobody was streamlining off the walls. It's the idea that if you try to teach too much, you end up teaching nothing. So we have to be very careful that we don't move someone forward until they've accomplished the task that we've asked them to do. Building the foundation. Which gets us to really, why do you do evaluations? And that is to build the knowledge of the athlete. To make sure that the athlete understands why they're doing something right and why they're doing something wrong and how to fix it. So we want to communicate with the athletes. So I went back a little farther and I started to look at how have we communicated through history. It kind of started with see and mimic. We go all the way back to the caveman days, that somebody saw someone with a coconut that he couldn't open, and then he saw another friend of his banging it on a rock and decided, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do what he does, and then I can open my coconut. It really took a leap forward in communication and knowledge sharing when people started to learn how to speak to each other. You can now share ideas verbally. The next big one was written written communication and the printing press. The printing press allowed us to really expand our knowledge because you could read things without being in front of that person. It no longer required that you sat with someone to learn what they knew. You could actually read what they knew. The next big breakthrough was a network computer for governments and hospitals and universities to share information across large distances virtually immediately. But it still left out the individual. The next one was the internet. Now anyone with a computer could share information, could find information, could really see what they wanted to learn about and very quickly get it. And now you don't even need a computer. Everybody has a mobile device. You can find anything you want wherever you want. And now we're just bombarded with information. We're bombarded with so much information, it's hard for us to determine what's right and what's wrong because it's coming from so many sources. And when we get back on deck and we're talking to our swimmers, we go all the way back to full circle and realize that the best way to communicate with them is back in the caveman days, which is see and mimic. See how to do this? Do it. The problem is that we all coach multiple swimmers. So how do we scale this so that we can reach all of our athletes? We know by private lessons, by tutoring, that one-to-one communication is the best way to do it. If we can get one swimmer sitting in front of us and we can work with them in a private lesson or a very detailed video analysis session, they're going to learn the most. As soon as we get to 1 to 2, it starts to fall apart a little bit. And you all know this. There's different physiologies. There's different mental maturities. As soon as you get 2 people, we have to individualize the message just a little bit to make sure that that athlete is getting exactly what they need. We generally work in a 1 to 30. Training group is approximately 30 swimmers in the United States. And what we learned on the trip is this is close to chaos. When you're in a classroom and you have 30 students sitting at their desks that you can speak directly to, that you can see their faces, and you can hear whether or not they're misbehaving, even that is not a good ratio. You can imagine, as you all know, as soon as the swimmers push off, our communication has ended. We depend on their knowledge once they've pushed off the wall to continue their progress forward. They must know what we know, or they must know more about themselves than we know about them. We must engage them in the process. In a study done in the United States, the classroom size for one teacher is 13 to 17 students, again with kids sitting in desks in a room. This is not swim coaching. By the time you get to 22 to 26 students, you must have 2 teachers. So we've witnessed this across the country. Well-meaning people that have a tremendous amount to do, that have limited resources, so certain things don't get done quite as good as they want them to be done. We just look at a standard coach and what some of the responsibilities are, and we know how this adds up to be overwhelming, to write the practices, to manage the meets, everything that you have to do, let alone dealing with parents and facilities. It's an overwhelming responsibility to run a swim team. And on top of that, you have to individualize technique, communication with every athlete. This is where we come in. Over the past 15 years, we've created thousands of videos with varying techniques. Hopefully all of you have at one point or another seen a GoSwim video. The social aspect of things is something that we take responsibility to share to the swimming community, and we've been doing it for a lot of years. In the platform, however, you are able to find the exact video that you want, which in this case would be breaststroke, head position, or breaststroke extension. You can then click the date that you want your swimmers to see it, add your message so that you can explain what you want your swimmers to watch, click the button, and every one of your swimmers will see this video before practice. So when you get to practice, they already have an understanding of what you want them to work on. If you want to do this on a larger scale, you can go into any course, because again, it becomes daunting to share the perfect video with the athlete every day. You can go into any course and at the click of a button, schedule all of the videos in that course for the next 2 months. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, these swimmers are going to get a João de Luca freestyle video. And the question then becomes, do I have to show the perfect video, or can I just show them something? Can I engage them in seeing that every Olympic athlete has extension in freestyle? And over time, when they continue to see these beautiful body lines that we'll be seeing this week at World Championships, when they start to understand that that is the norm, and they start to see videos of themselves in the evaluation process, the self-education begins. The swimmers understand, I don't look like João de Luca. Why don't I look like that? Other than he's really tall and good looking. So now, how do we get content back to the athlete? How do we make sure that we can communicate with them simply and easily? And being a coach and knowing that I wanted to give frequent feedback, again, like I said, these are now your weapons. A GoPro camera or a cell phone in an underwater case. Simple. You don't have to overthink it. And you don't have to do a full evaluation every day. If a swimmer can see what they're doing, you don't have to explain that they're overreaching anymore. They can see it. We've all been there where we say your hands are coming across, place wider. And they swim the next length exactly the same. And you say, what did you change? And they say, well, I put my hand wider. But you and I know they didn't. They have to understand, we all say it, if you want to place your hand from here to here, you have to feel like it's out here. But until they see it, they can't associate the positioning of the hand with where it's really going in. And with a 5-second piece of video that they can be sharing and playing over and over and over again on their own device, a very personal interaction, it allows you to show them content and videos every day if you want. All those videos are private just for that particular swimmer. You can do this from your iPhone. You can do it from a GoPro, any camera you can use. So you don't have to invest a lot of money. You're probably already carrying your best feedback device in your pocket. You can recall any video you've ever shot directly on your device whenever you want. You don't have to store these videos on your phone anymore. You don't have to use up your data. You don't have to use up your space. If you want to, you can use simple apps like Coach's Eye to take that video, draw annotation on it, talk to the swimmer, get incredibly specific, and privately share that back through GoSwim. So GoSwim becomes the place that you can share any of our videos whenever you want to all of your athletes so that you can show them your ideal technique. Pick the one you want and share it, and then you can show them what they look like. And you can get as detailed as you want for very little money. The reason that this system was designed to be so simple is because the most important thing in teaching is frequency and consistency. We are in a sport of frequency and consistency. This is one of the most repetitious sports in the world. So the more feedback we give the athlete, the better chance we have of buying them in. I consider teaching to be like advertising. Advertisement is trying to get you to do something that they want you to do. Our teaching to our swimmers is trying to get them to do something we want them to do for themselves. So when you look at the successful advertising campaigns of the world, one of the first ones that I think of is Got Milk. So those of you that don't know what this is, I'm hoping that most of you know. Got Milk has been used now for 23 years. We know what the product is. 23 years they've been using the same thing and using great athletes. And those of you that know football, David Beckham has a lot more tattoos now, so you know how long this ad campaign is being used. Just do it. The Nike slogan, 28 years of consistency. 28 years and we all know. And finally, the Breakfast of Champions. 90 years that's been used. When it works, it works. Our job as coaches is to increase our consistency and our frequency of feedback to our swimmers. And don't worry so much that it's perfect. Worry that we're engaging them in the process and that they are part of the process. This is not one way anymore. The swimmers need to be involved. What we're doing now is we've purchased a pool in Cleveland, Ohio. We're going to put these into practice ourselves. Obviously, we've been coaches our entire lives. But we're trying to make sure that the team size and the functionality and how we teach and how we progress athletes through, so we're starting from absolute scratch. We don't have to worry about creating a new culture or changing a culture because we are creating a new culture from scratch using all of this methodology. So, again, I appreciate you coming. If you have any questions how to do this, how to share this with all of your swimmers, how to film, how to evaluate, I figure you just come back to the booth. 47 will be there the next 2 days, and I can answer individual questions. If you have swimming questions you want to talk about, we're there as well. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.